We encourage you to shift your focus from feedback to feed forward. This requires shifting the focus also from the giver of the feedback to preparing the receiver of the feedback. And it's really an important context to think about if we think about a learner's mindset, moving towards a learner's mindset. And to do that, one of the first steps is looking at how do we get the learner to adopt a growth mindset? How do we get them to move away from that fixed mindset thinking into that growth mindset, where intelligence and talent can grow? It's very significant. There are two mindsets according to Carol Dweck in her research, and we want to focus on the growth mindset because people who develop and can, grow a growth mindset will embrace challenges. They will actually see effort as something that's important to mastery. And most importantly, they see criticism, which feedback can play a role in, as something being positive. They can grow from it. They find lessons in the inspiration of others, and they see effort as a way to mastery. In contrast, people with the fixed mindset really aren't willing to accept any type of feedback, whether it is feed forward or if it is traditional feedback. They're threatened by the success of others, and they really believe that they are as good as it gets. And if they face challenges, it's very, very difficult for them to do anything about that. The notion of yet is really important to the growth mindset because you want your learner to shift their focus from thinking, I can't do it, to I can't do it yet, or I'm not there yet. It's all about the progress. It's extremely important. It's also important that you recognize that the growth mindset and this type of thinking, the learner's mindset as well, is all part of a culture of risk-taking where you are educating people about the mindset. You're emphasizing challenge, not success. You're focusing on purpose. Why is extremely important. And effort, persistence, and continual improvement are the keys. Don't take my word for it. There's a lot of evidence to support this from the traditional literature and from a very practical experience. I'm sure we've all hit the brakes when we've seen the speed trap, whether it's in a school zone or just on the side of the road. We slow down. It works. It's a deterrent. But can you actually deter people from speeding without having to have a police officer give you a ticket? Well, I think we've all seen these wonderful little flashing signs that indicate your speed. Do they work? Does the data show that they work? Yes, very significantly. People do slow down, just as long as the signs are moved every once in a while, and so that the effect can have an impact. Drivers do slow down. It isn't just drivers who are slowing down. The literature points to the impact of positive reinforcement and feedback. If we take a look at teaching effects and the research of John Hattie and his organization, you'll see that formative evaluation, feedback, these types of things, that constant contribution to helping the learner to grow are one of the most significant things that will contribute to student achievement. Feedback and a trusted relationship is a significant factor. An effect size of 1 or more, according to Hattie, is significant in the sense that it reflects 2 entire grade point levels and a standard deviation. And that is significant. And when we take a look at things like feedback, you'll see that feedback is extremely high, as is formative evaluation. And guess what? Feedback is part of that. And so is the metacognitive reflective practices. Now, if you'll notice, the self-assessment is even higher. And this is where we really want to get our learners to, that point where they become self-directed learners who are able to assess themselves and use the world around them and solicit feedback on their own to be able to grow. This is extremely important. This is where we want to take our learners. It's important that we understand what feedback is before we can really expand on what feed forward is and what its potential can provide. Now, I think we've all either experienced or perhaps even used the sandwich technique where we package a form of criticism between 2 compliments. It's very common. It's some would argue an accepted standard. I know I have used it in the past and I have been subject to it on a regular basis. But does it work? A lot of people would argue that it doesn't work because it really has some negative impacts, negative connotations. Well, more specifically, it really focuses on the giver, not the receiver. It diffuses the message, waters down the message, it destroys the positive value of feedback, and it really in one sense is almost insulting and somewhat deceitful. There's other methods of this form of sandwich criticism. The PIPS model, for example, praise something, improve something, positive praise overall, and then supply an uplifting comment. Well, that's just a fancier form of the criticism sandwich. And this one doesn't work any better. What does work? Feed forward is the key. But what is feed forward? Well, according to Marshall Goldsmith, who really is the originator of this idea, it's the notion of identifying a positive behavior, a positive trait, something encouraging, and describing it to a colleague in a positive sentence, and then encouraging them to move forward. He has used this in a variety of seminars and in his consulting practice, and he uses it in a business setting to really promote the notion of positive reinforcement and encouragement. We've taken his ideas and we've applied it to the educational setting and modified it a little bit. And our modification really focuses on two simple questions, and we call it the what model. What worked and what can be better? Yes, it really is that simple. You ask the learner what worked, or you identify for the learner what you see working, and then you also identify for the learner, or ask them to identify, what can be better? How can you improve? How can you build on this solid foundation? What can be done next time? This is all about looking forward. This is also what D. Fink would refer to as educative assessment. It's forward-thinking assessment. It's all about improvement. It's all about development. It's all about growth. Now, Hattie has a variation of this model, which has one more component to it, but I think the what model is just as effective. But Hattie focuses on where am I going, how am I going, and where to next. So the emphasis is the journey. It's an analysis. How is it going? Where am I going? How am I going? And where to next? Important aspect as well. Feedback, or more importantly, feed forward, is crucial if it's timely. The right time, when the learner is ready, when the participant is ready, when they are seeking that input from their trusted mentor or coach. Timely feedback and feed forward is crucial. Trust has to come into play here. And as Hattie has pointed out from his research, feedback from a trusted mentor or a trusted coach or in a trusted relationship is one of the most significant factors for student achievement. But your learner doesn't only trust you as the instructor, they trust a whole assortment of people. It's also important to understand that those trust relations can also play a significant role in the feedback. So there's peers, technical experts, people like yourself, right? Your learners, if you can establish the right type of a positive learning environment, a significant learning environment where learners have gotten to know each other and they start to trust each other and develop relationships, well, guess what? They can provide feedback to each other. And the research is relatively clear on this. Your students will trust an academic or an expert or a colleague. It's right on par with the academic. So you as the teacher aren't the only person who can provide that feed forward. Friends, family, other experts, classmates, there's a lot of other sources of feedback, other authorities. Don't discount the fact that other people can play that significant role in providing feedback. Every voice matters when it comes to learner. It's important that you engage your learners in a way that you establish that trusted relationship. You encourage them to develop trust within their cohorts and in their classroom or in their learning environment with their colleagues. And once they establish that trust, the feedback and the feed forward from those relations will be significant. And you aren't the only person who can provide that significant what works and what can do better perspective.